Last time, we talked about shedding the mindset of the obedient follower. Today, we go deeper into what it means to adopt a power mindset. That means learning something more advanced and far more uncomfortable, breaking the rules. Because when you hold power, the most direct privilege is this: you don't have to play by the rules. If you follow every rule by the book, what do you need power for? Rules are for the powerless. The powerful create them. You must get used to acting more boldly. But breaking the rules creates psychological pressure. Society expects you to comply. Breaking the rules creates trouble. Trouble draws stares, and most people can't handle that. We're conditioned to avoid bothering others, even when our needs are legitimate. But this mindset must change. Power means directing others. If you're afraid of bothering people, you'll never hold it. Here's a story from the U.S. Sundance Film Festival in Utah, where Stanford MBA students often go to mingle. Professor Pfeffer sees it as a training ground and challenges his students each year. Can you find a way to meet the high-profile attendees? One student did exactly that. She emailed the event organizers, claiming to be a contributor for Forbes, expressing interest in attending one of the private dinners. Hearing media, they quickly replied, offering her a choice of nights. She waited 48 hours to respond. Friday is packed. Can I come Saturday? They sent her the RSVP link. She didn't mention bringing her boyfriend because she wasn't sure he'd be free. But come Saturday, he was. She brought him along. At the door, organizers balked. You didn't say you'd bring someone. She replied, well, we're already here. They let both of them in. She wasn't media. She wasn't invited. She broke protocol, and she got in. Pfeffer applauds her. You might be thinking, what on earth are they teaching at Stanford? But here's the thing. We've all seen people like this. You probably don't like them. You probably don't want to be like them. But maybe you need to reconsider what breaking the rules really means. 1. Breaking rules brings rewards. Modern society trains us to be overly compliant. Be nice. Be obedient. Don't cause trouble. Studies show that the average employee spends around 3 hours per week dealing with some form of conflict. Yet most have never received training on how to handle it. So people avoid confrontation altogether, especially with bosses or colleagues. They avoid arguments, downplay issues, keep things smooth, which gives you an edge. If you're willing to push and they're not, you win by default. That's why there's an old American saying, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission. Just do it. If people complain, apologize later. The damage is done, and reversing it causes more trouble than letting it go. Take Robert Moses, the legendary New York urban planner. He was brilliant, but brilliance needs projects. Red tape slows you down. So Moses would often start projects without official approval. He'd build parks before getting permits. By the time the city noticed, the parks were beloved. Who'd dare tear them down? Some moves have zero risk, like asking for help. There's a curious imbalance in polite society. You're expected to mind your business, not ask favors. But if someone asks you for help and you can offer it, most people say yes. Asking puts you in a low-status posture, while helping puts the other in high status. And we like high status. In one experiment, participants were asked to perform 2 simple tasks. 1, borrow a stranger's phone. 2, ask someone to walk them to a gym. Basic stuff, right? But 27% of participants quit on the spot, just because the task involved asking strangers for help. That's free opportunity, left lying on the ground. If you're willing to ask, you'll win more. And you can go even bolder. One of Pfeffer's students once barged into a top executive's office without an appointment and made a pitch. It was so unusual, the executive said yes on the spot. He might have said no, but what did the student really risk? 2. Breaking rules boosts your image. There's being liked, and there's being seen as powerful. They're not the same. In fact, they're often opposites. Research shows that powerful people act less politely, they smile less, interrupt more, speak louder. Everything we're taught to avoid. That's because we're not taught to seek power. In fact, breaking rules makes people perceive you as more powerful. In one experiment, a group sat quietly at a city office. There was coffee at the service desk, but no one was offered any. Then one man stood up, helped himself to coffee, and sat back down. Another man just went to the restroom. When asked later who seemed more powerful, people chose the coffee guy. Another study presented two accountants. One shrugged off a minor error in a financial report. This happens, auditors won't notice, or we'll talk our way through. The other insisted on fixing it by the book. Guess who seemed more powerful? It's not logical, but it's real. Rule breakers, project strength. 3. Breaking rules is sometimes necessary. Why else break rules? Because sometimes you can't win if you don't. Political scientist Ivan Toft studied wars where one side had 5 times more military power. Surprisingly, the weaker side won 51.2% of the time between 1950 and 1999. Why? Because they didn't fight fair. Guerrilla tactics, asymmetry. They broke the rules. Malcolm Gladwell writes about this in David and Goliath. If you're the underdog, you must play a different game. Chinese companies once copied foreign brands to break into global markets. Was it wrong? Maybe. But it was also how the US once copied Britain, and how Britain once copied the Dutch. Everyone's done it. Rules often exist to protect the powerful. If you want in, you have to shake things up. Power comes from rewriting the rules. In conclusion, if you want power, obedience won't get you there. Obedience is the opposite of power. We talked about this back in Season 1, our episode, The Bad Habits of Powerful People, based on Pfeffer's earlier book, Power. We listed how people rise by breaking the mold. Of course, if everyone breaks the rules, chaos follows. There's a balance. Remember the hawk-dove game from game theory? If everyone's a hawk, it's better to be a dove. But if everyone's a dove, you'd better be a hawk. Today's society trains us to be doves, but power belongs to hawks. One powerful idea to remember: following rules isn't power. A judge sentencing a criminal according to the law, that's justice, not power. Power is knowing you could and choosing not to. Power is breaking the script, acting off the flowchart, making your own decisions. Not to defy the world, but to redraw its boundaries. One final story. A couple sat at a red light. A man behind them honked repeatedly. They rolled down the window. The man pleaded. He was rushing his child to the hospital. The driver stayed put. We'll wait for the green. His girlfriend broke up with him later, and she was right. A man who can't even break a rule when it matters, what power could he possibly have? We explored how breaking the rules strategically can help you rise above the crowd. Today we go even deeper into the mindset of power by focusing on something absolutely essential to your influence: your image. Because in the realm of power, perception is reality. We like to believe we're judged by our intentions, our inner values, or the quality of our ideas. But the truth? Most of the world judges by appearances: fast, instinctive, and often accurate. There's an old saying that you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but here's the hidden truth behind it. We do it all the time. And in power dynamics, that first impression can make or break your political life. Take leadership. If your term is only 3 years, you can't wait for year 2 to earn respect, or year 4 for people to really get you. You need people to believe in you from day one. No one's waiting to discover your true essence. They need to feel your authority instantly. There's a Roman legend about Emperor Augustus. Before he gained full control, he made sure to present himself with grace and calm, even in times of danger. His enemies underestimated him, seeing only the quiet mannerisms. But behind that calm image was sharp decisiveness. His ability to project leadership bought him loyalty before he ever earned it. This brings us to the point. Power has a look, a feel, a vibe, and you must learn to embody it. Confidence is the cornerstone of that image. Not just ordinary confidence, overconfidence. The kind that radiates certainty even when the future is unclear. Great leaders don't just have self-assurance, they pass it on. Your team should feel unstoppable just by standing next to you. In fact, studies show that overconfidence earns you the same credit as actual skill. A person who seems sure of themselves but isn't especially talented can score as highly in peer evaluations as someone genuinely gifted but quiet. And this confidence effect lasts. 7 weeks after seeing it, your peers still rate you more positively. That's why first impressions matter so much. One study took 13 college professors from various disciplines. Researchers cut their lectures into 10-second soundless video clips, just visuals, no audio. Then they asked students to rate them based only on those clips. Astonishingly, these snap judgments correlated strongly with the ratings from students who had spent an entire semester in their classes. Another study showed students photographs of CEOs and asked them to rate their competence. Their scores, based purely on appearance, correlated with both leadership evaluations and actual company profits. That's not just judging books by covers. That's getting the whole storyline from the dust jacket and being right. So how do you shape an image of confidence and leadership? The good news, it has nothing to do with your natural personality or gender. It's behavioral and trainable. Here's what Pfeffer recommends. Speak more. Take up verbal space. Speak louder. Volume signals certainty. Increase your visual dominance ratio. Look at people when you speak, but don't feel obligated to look when they speak. Interrupt when needed. Command the floor. Be direct. Don't hedge. Say what you mean. Use open body language. Strong gestures. Expansive posture. Close the physical distance. Be present. Relax. Look like you belong. And when it comes to what you say, learn from political speechwriters. Use short, simple, punchy words. Ditch long sentences and technical jargon. Avoid weak qualifiers like maybe or I think. Use emotionally resonant words. Hurt, risk, crisis. Give clear conclusions, not open-ended questions. Most importantly, repeat your message. Repetition builds belief. To the academic mind, this may all feel blunt, but that's exactly the point. Politics isn't academia. If you want to win influence, you must let go of intellectual pride and embrace clarity, simplicity, and presence. And here's something that might make you wince. Pfeffer strongly advises leaders never to apologize publicly over a workplace issue. Why? Because apologies shift blame squarely onto you. They diminish your self-image, and more importantly, they shatter others' confidence in your authority. When you say sorry, you're telling the world that trusting you was a mistake. Let's look at two real-world cases from 2010. British Petroleum's CEO had to testify before the U.S. House of Representatives after a massive oil spill killed 11 people and devastated marine ecosystems. He appeared solemn, apologetic, almost childlike in his demeanor. He promised investigations, reparations, and reform, but didn't defend his company's role, history, or mission. Contrast that with the CEO of Goldman Sachs. That same year, his firm was grilled for betting against a security it sold to its clients. Yet in his Senate testimony, he didn't apologize once. Instead, he repeatedly emphasized the firm's expertise, its responsibility to clients, and its leadership in the industry. When asked tough questions, he smiled and explained, as if offering a masterclass in finance. The result? The BP CEO was ousted shortly after. The Goldman Sachs CEO remained until his retirement 8 years later. Apologies signal weakness. Anger, on the other hand, signals dominance. Studies show that employees who express anger, when appropriate, are rated more competent, more authoritative, and more worthy of promotion. It's not about rage. It's about controlled fire. So yes, all of this can feel manipulative. Power work is uncomfortable. It can distort your instincts, challenge your ideals, and demand unnatural behavior. But here's the trade-off. You're not playing as a civilian anymore. You're in the arena. And in the arena, it's not about what's fair. It's about what works. Leadership is theater, and your image is your costume. You protect it like your life depends on it, because politically it does. At its core, power is about trust. In dark, uncertain moments, people don't need a genius. They need a compass. They need someone who will say with conviction, "This is where we're going," even if that person isn't 100% sure. That's why former President Clinton could apologize publicly about his personal conduct, but never about his presidential decisions. Voters accepted his personal failings because they still believed in his leadership. In the power game, your character arc must never crack. If people believe your judgment is flawed, your influence evaporates. Your magic breaks. So if it feels heavy, that's because it is. Power isn't fun. It's not pretty. It's responsibility wrapped in spotlight. But if you're willing to step into that light, then remember, confidence isn't a personality, it's a decision.